Here we go.
Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the Herero subculture. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of them or know anything about them. So today in this presentation I'm going to talk about the history of them and what they've gone through, why the Herero women wear certain style of clothing, as well as their culture and beliefs. So the Herero culture, or the history of them, they were around in the 1550s. And in the 19th century, Germans came over and settled in their land. So they saw that they were prosperous and they knew what they were doing in growing their crops. So they asked for help, and it later became they became slaves to the Germans. So in 1904, they decided to revolt against them, which ultimately about 100 Germans died during the battle, and more than like 80% of the Herero people got wiped out. The remaining of them were mainly women and children. So they were the first people to be placed in concentration camps. So they were placed in concentration camps. They were forced to be slaves. A lot of them were used as experiments, so they injected them with smallpox and tuberculosis. And then towards the end of World War I, they regained back their land. And the Herero people, I'm spacing right now. So they got back their land. So now that you know a little bit more about their history, I'm going to go ahead and talk about why the women wear certain clothing. When the Germans came over and they had asked them for help, they originally, they didn't, if you saw on the previous slide, they didn't really have clothing, so they had to wear what the Germans saw fit. So the women had to wear these Victorian 19th century dresses and these hats, where the men just wore pants and a shirt. So you may wonder why, even to this day, they would still wear something like that. And it was more of, they decided to wear that to show what their ancestors went through, that, their hardships they went through, and that they had hope and they persisted, and, they wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't for them and what they had gone through. So that's a huge part in why they continue on wearing what they wear. So now that you know about that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about their culture and beliefs. So the Herero culture and their beliefs, they believe in two. So they believe in Christianity. However, they also believe in holy fire, which is a traditional ancestral fire where they used to communicate with their ancestors. It's also used to kind of symbolize life and persistence and hope. So that's a huge part of their culture as well. And they are also polygamous. So they believe in having more than one wives. Men are typically allowed to have no more than 7 wives. And in their culture, marriage really isn't that big of a deal. So the first wife, she actually is the one who gets to choose other subsequent wives. The women in this culture, they're not allowed to have more than one husband. So for them, their marriage really isn't, they don't have any personal relationship there. So majority of the women in Herero have other relations with other men. They're just not allowed to get married technically. So if you guys want to find out, more information, I would really suggest checking out the Trip Down Memory Lane article. It has a lot of information. It goes more in depth about their history and their day-to-day lives, as well as their culture. They are a very interesting culture, I'm not going to lie. I read a lot of information about them that kind of piqued my interest. But so I recap. So I talked about the history, why they wear certain clothing, and their culture and beliefs.